After we've created a curve and entered edit mode, we are presented with a set of new options in the toolbar. The first of these is the Draw Curve tool. Before using this tool, we'll get rid of the original curve. But, although the curve itself is gone, the object and its origin remain. Any new elements we create will be part of the original curve object and share its origin. The Draw Curve tool allows us to draw freehand in the 3D viewport. And when we release the mouse button, our drawn outline is converted to a Bezier curve. If we first switch to a named viewpoint such as top, our drawing will be restricted to the 2 dimensions displayed in the viewport. In the case of top view, that means we restrict drawing to the X and Y directions. There is also a last op panel for the Draw tool, which appears when we release the mouse. Error indicates the deviation in the curve created from our original drawing. If we reduce this figure, the curve follows our original line more closely, but usually means that more control points are added. Fit method offers 2 algorithms for creating the curve, with refit being more accurate, but split being faster if potentially less precise. Angle. Any sharp bend in the drawn line, which is greater than this value, is considered to be a corner, and as such, its control point is assigned free handles rather than aligned ones. Handle types were explained in video 89. Cyclic, when checked, joins the 2 ends of the newly created curve. Another point to note is that, should we assign any characteristics to the curve in the data page, those characteristics will be repeated in all the curves within the current object. For example, if we have assigned a depth value, that value will be repeated in the new and existing curves. There are also more parameters in the Tool page of the sidebar. Before we discuss the options there in more detail, you should be aware that some of these options are designed for use with a tablet, where we can adjust pen pressure. So using only a mouse, we cannot make use of all of the features. Type. If we choose Bezier, then our drawing is converted to a Bezier curve. But if we select Poly, Blender creates many control points and then adds straight lines between each. Although this second option seems inferior to the first, it may be the better option if the curve is later to be converted to a mesh. Radius min and radius max are multiplying factors for the bevel depth setting. They are intended to be used with a pressure-sensitive digital tablet. With the tablet's pen pressure at minimum, the tubing's radius is calculated as radius min times bevel depth. At maximum pen pressure, the radius is radius max times bevel depth. Calculations are performed per pixel. If you are using a standard mouse, only radius max times bevel depth is used when calculating the radius of the curve's piping. Radius min has a second purpose, with radius min times bevel depth defining the minimum radius at the ends of the curve when taper values are used. For example, if we set radius min to 0, the end of the curve will reduce to a single point when tapering is used. Taper start and taper end are used in conjunction with the radius min times bevel depth value. These 2 fields represent how far along the curve tapering affects. Hence, if we set taper start to 0.25, tapering will stretch over 25% of the curve, beginning at the start of the curve. If taper end is set to 0.25, tapering will stretch over 25% of the curve, beginning at the end of the curve. Finally, if we change radius min to 0.5, the tapering starts at half the normal radius rather than as a sharp point. Use pressure has to be activated, which turns the button blue, if Blender is to respond to a tablet's pen pressure. Depth has 2 options. Cursor draws the curve at the position of the cursor, as we might expect. To demonstrate the second option, surface, we need to add another object to our scene. In this example, a plane and an intersecting UV sphere. Now, if we draw the curve over the plane and sphere, it will cling to those surfaces. New curves will even bend over existing ones. When we choose Surface, we also get a few more parameter options. Project onto Selected, if checked, will only attach the curve to selected objects. Offset determines what percentage of the curve sits above the object's surface. At the maximum of 1, the whole curve piping is above the surface. Absolute Offset, if checked, the offset value becomes an absolute distance above the surface of the object, irrespective of the piping's radius. Only First attaches only the very first part of the curve to the surface. Plane determines the plane to which the curve is aligned. Normal to Surface draws along a plane aligned with the surface's face, normal. Tangent to Normal draws along a plane perpendicular to the face, normal. View draws along a plane aligned with the view in the 3D viewport. The last two checkboxes appear in both the surface and cursor options. Curve 2D restricts the curve being drawn to a single plane. As NURBS, use NURBS maths to mimic a Bezier-style curve. You are unlikely to need this in many situations. There is a final heading, Workspace, on this page of the sidebar, but this does not relate to controlling the characteristics of the Draw Curve tool. A last point to note is that many of the options we've covered in this video are also available in the top left part of the 3D viewport.